Good morning. We have a quorum. Let me call the meeting to order. We held our last meeting on the 15th of November 2013, and the minutes have been issued to members. The clerk has not received any proposals for amendments. Can we confirm the minutes, please? Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Since the last meeting, some papers have been issued. Some are letters from members, and they have shown concern towards a few matters. The papers have been listed in the agenda. Items for discussion at the next meeting, which will be held on the 21st of February 2014. The administration has raised two items for discussion. The first one, Cross Bay Link, Cheung Kwan O. The second one, street lighting in Hong Kong. As I said, many members have written in to show concern on the operation of the taxi trade. It is found that taxi drivers have been breaching the law by installing over 10 mobile phones on their taxi. I'm sure this will have an impact on road traffic and road safety. I would propose, therefore, that since this is of wide concern, I hope that at the next meeting we can add this item to the two proposed by the administration. Shall we do that? Deputy or Undersecretary, please take note of that. This is a law enforcement issue, and perhaps we may also have to look at the laws to see whether they should be tightened up. So members, what do you think about the agenda for the next meeting? Mr. Wong Kwok-hing? Chairman, thank you for making that proposal to add an item to the next meeting. In fact, you have taken words out of my mouth. I was also trying to mention taxis with a lot of mobile phones in front of the driver's seat, and I welcome that. Mr. Yik Chi Ming, Frankie Yik, I have the same point, Chairman, but I'm not only talking about discount fares offered by taxi drivers. Now that the mobile phones are placed on the dashboard, I think it is most dangerous. In fact, I have seen another driver next to me, next to my car, in fact texting in Chinese on one of the mobile phones while he was driving. Okay, we will invite the relevant law enforcement agencies to come back next time to have an exchange of views with us on this. If you have nothing else on the agenda for the next meeting, we'll now go into the next item, which is a discussion item, proposed revision to fees and charges relating to road traffic. We welcome the team from the administration, including the Undersecretary for Transport and Housing, Mr. Yao Xing-mu, PAS for Transport and Housing, Ms. Amy Chan, and also from the Hong Kong Police Force, Mr. Paul Atwin. And also we have Principal Executive Officer from the Transport Department, Mr. Wilson Chiu. Welcome all to the meeting. First, could I ask the Undersecretary to introduce the paper to us, please? Thank you, Chairman. We follow the user pays principle to decide on fees and charges to be payable for government services. In other words, that we should set it at a level sufficient to recover the full cost for providing the services. The FS said in his 2013-14 budget speech that we needed a systematic review of fees and charges and should first deal with fees which had not been revised for years and which will not have a direct impact on people's livelihood. According to our cost calculation, we are proposing to increase the fees for 7 road traffic related services. The first one is fee for record of convictions, traffic convictions, regulations, and 2 removal charge, and also certificate for no recorded conviction, and also storage charge, and also renewal of destination of a driving school. We are proposing an increase between 6% and 15%. There will not be any direct impact on livelihood, and in fact these fees have not been increased for 7 years or more. The relevant departments will continue to enhance their work efficiency and streamline procedures. We believe that after raising the fees, there will be a net increase in revenue of about $460,000. We'll be happy to listen to members' views on the proposed fee revision. We hope you will support us, and in due course, we will start the legislative procedure to amend the law. We believe we can do so within the 2013-14 legislative year. I will now be happy to listen to members' views.
Can I remind members that the bundle given to us by the administration contains 7 items, and I suggest that we stick to these 7 items, please. Starting with you, Mr. Wong Kwok-hing. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to 4 minutes each, please. Yes, 4 minutes. Yes. Now, the 7 items have not been adjusted in 7 years' time. Now, can I ask why is it that in the last 7 years it was not done in phases instead of now being done in one stroke? Some items up to 20%. And getting to a cost recovery level? This is my first question. Second, apart from the 7 items, are there other items not related to people's livelihood that have yet to be increased? Mr. Yao. Mr. Wong, now different government departments will regularly review its fees and charges, whether it reaches the cost recovery level. This is done on a regular basis. But in each particular year, the amount of increase is not going to be very significant, and we do not want to cause nuisance or disruption to the public, so we waited until we have a whole lot to put forward. Yes, there will be other items requiring fee increases, but we are again waiting for the departments to suggest a level which is significant but will not adversely affect people's livelihood. One more question. So, about how many more items will come forward? Well, we do not have a fixed number as yet. Our departments are working on them. Now, will they be presented in the 3rd quarter of this year? Chair, I would like to point out to the government that these items not affecting people's livelihood should really be adjusted at a small level every year or every 2 years, rather than allowing them to accumulate. Now, but I think as a policy bureau, you should be looking at it on a macro level with an overall angle. Now, at the moment, the impact is not very significant, but otherwise, this fare increase will be criticized most strongly. So I hope you will note my suggestion. Do your adjustment every year or every 2 years, and the impact will not be felt so strongly. I share the view of the previous speaker. Now, the magnitude of increase, and this is going to cause a bigger repercussion. Now, maybe a biannual adjustment is needed. Okay, Mr. Yao, you have heard the views. Yes, I thank you, both gentlemen, for your views. We are certainly going to take it back and consider your views, and maybe adjust our frequency accordingly. Yes. Now, I notice that for this present round of exercise, the guiding principle is user pays. it is not yet 100% cost recovery. So my question is, well, some members have adjusted a yearly or biannual adjustment, and we are all of the view that we should one day reach full cost recovery. Now, Mr. Yao, in your estimation, when can we achieve that 100% cost recovery? Thank you for your question, Chair. Now, in our paper, paragraph 4, if we make adjustment, now every year we want to consider the magnitude of the increase, whether we reach full cost recovery. Now, that's our major consideration. Now, Chair, you'll also notice that for some of our charges, we are very close to 100%. So, if it exceeds the level prescribed in paragraph 4, we are quite open to members' view whether we can be allowed to charge a little bit more than the 100%. But at the moment, that's our yardstick. Now, in your fees and charges, some are of a penalizing nature. Or people obstructing traffic, you have to remove the vehicle, for example. And if you cannot recover the cost, then I hope you will consider apart from using the fixed amount penalty, if it's for a removal charge exceeding a certain number of tons, for example, I think you should go for full cost recovery. That's only reasonable. Mr. Wu. Now, in fact, Chair, you asked my question. Now, for paragraph 4, we noticed certain criteria, but I think for full cost recovery, that should be our guiding principle, especially if it does not involve people's livelihood, if it's a kind of a penalty. Now, but Mr. Yao, you mentioned that, of course, we should be doing it in a fair and square manner, but do you have a timetable so the public will know that the government is determined to achieve full cost recovery, so that you will not be accumulating the amount of increase and then suddenly throw it out, and people will find it difficult to cope. Now, if the government has a clear-cut policy intention, that is, at the end of the day, there should be full cost recovery. Now, we would like to see some data and a detailed timetable so that the public would know how many years it's going to take before you get there to 100%. Mr. Yao, now for a timetable, now at this stage, now to be frank, we do not yet know how or when, because some of the cost calculations are pretty complicated. But we have heard your views about certain items can actually be struck at one go. For example, for government removal or storage charges, we have reached 93%. Now, if we increase it to 99%, that's only 1%. And if members feel that it is quite acceptable, we are willing to take on members' suggestions. So are you giving us the green light or the recommendation that we should get there? Well, we are suggesting that as a general direction, that for these items, we should get very close to 100% if not exactly 100. Members, if you don't have any other views, we can say that our panel is supportive, and this wraps up the agenda item here. And moving on to the next one. Next one is we have a briefing by the Secretary for Transport and Housing on the transport policy initiatives featuring in the Chief Executive's 2014 policy address, and we invite the Secretary to the chamber. Now we have, apart from Professor Anthony Cheung, we have Mr. Joseph Lai, Permanent Secretary, and Mr. Yao, Undersecretary, Mrs. Ingrid Yang, Commissioner for Transport, Mr. Peter Lau, Director of Highways, Ms. Rebecca Poon, Deputy Secretary, Mr. Andy Chan, as well as Ms. Ivy Law. So welcome to all. Professor Cheung, if you're ready, the floor is yours. Chairman, members, now in the policy address delivered day before yesterday, I would like to outline the overall briefing on land transport. Now, first of all, on railway development, now we have 5 items, including the high-speed link, West Island Land, Kwun Tong Link, South Kowloon, as well as the Sha Tin Central Line. And we reckon that by the end of the year, until 2020, these will be completed. And our railway network will cover 70% of the population areas in Hong Kong. Now, on our development, we have entered the last phase, and our consultant will very shortly provide the final report, and we will take reference from the recommendations, and then to respond to the needs of the community, taking into account developmental needs as well as financial implications, and we're going to devise a blueprint for further development, and we're going to make it public later this year to Hong Kong. Now, our transport policy is that it should play a very important role, and then the overall framework should be supported by the railways, and 93% uses railways, and then buses takes up about 40% of the patronage. And while reviewing all this, we are going to look at the planning of the various major infrastructures, and then looking at the long-term development. And this will include the light rail systems review, and we're going to look forward to some future planning from there. And we're going to improve the public system, improve the realignment of bus routes. Now, we have worked with the franchise bus companies to do all the rerouting in order to improve efficiency and to alleviate traffic congestion and to reduce emission, so to achieve a win-win situation. Now, with the support of the District Council in the Northern District as well as Tuen Mun, we have done our realignment of the routes, and this will balance the needs and demands, and then to free up resources to serve other feeder programs in the district as well as other areas. And we want to provide concessions for feeder routes so that buses can actually serve the public. Now, in these adjustment stages, this may bring inconvenience to some people, but for all this realigning of the routes, the overall outcome is going to be positive.
In 2014, we will continue to adopt the same area approach In order to do this for Yunlong, Tianshouwai, Taipo, Qingyi, and Shatin Maoanshan. In the process, we'll be keeping close liaison with the relevant district councils in order to improve upon the rationalization packages. We are very concerned about the quality of service and also fees or fares charged by public transport. We would like to strike a balance between the people's affordability, financial feasibility, sustainability, and also safety, etc. We will act as an effective gatekeeper. In terms of expanding roads in order to tackle traffic demand, we're also concerned about the ever-increasing number of vehicles on our roads and the congestion resulting from it, and also there is a parking problem. The administration will review these issues. Chairman, we need to provide universal accessibility. That means we'd like to provide a bicycle and pedestrian-friendly environment. Under the major premise of road and pedestrian safety, we will continue to implement the universal accessibility program by building footbridges, and where there is congestion, we will provide barrier-free access for pedestrians and will further improve upon a bicycle-friendly area. And transport is very much related to people's livelihood and the economy. In making plans for our transport network, we will continue to liaise and cooperate with all stakeholders and listen to views of the community and the LegCo so we can respond to the needs of the times. Thank you, Chairman. 4 members have indicated they would like to speak. Wong Kwok-hing, Frankie Yik, and also Tony Jie. 5 minutes each. Mr. Wong Kwok-hing, before I ask questions, I hope the Secretary can give us a script of his speech. Okay, I will now ask my questions. Please only start counting the time now. Number 1, I'm very glad to see that in the PA, the CE has proposed to redevelop Wafu Estate. You are the STH. The administration said there could be an addition of 11,900 units. So the density will increase. And as for railway development, SIL West, as stated in the PA, will be actively considered. Can the STH promise that SILW will be built parallel to Wafu redevelopment? If you provide more units, there will be more people and there will be traffic congestion. And if you build the SILW later, then you are going to repeat the lesson in Tung Chung New Town. Number 2, Siu Sai Wan residents earnestly wait for the Hong Kong Island Line to be extended to Siu Sai Wan. This is not mentioned this time around. Please respond to that. Number 3, I welcome the bus route rationalization effort. But how should we make the best use of road surface, especially making full use of the capacity of buses? Now, after crossing the tunnel, buses are still charging a higher fee than local buses of the same distance or covering the same distance. If you don't reduce the fee after crossing the harbor, the cross harbor routes will remain empty. This is a very big gap in your bus rationalization program. Chairman, the last point raised by Mr. Wong with regard to bus fares after crossing the harbor and whether this will help a more efficient use of road space. He mentioned that before and I already answered it. I think the Commissioner can speak up later. On Wafu redevelopment, indeed the CE said in the PA that because there will be a new public rental housing project in the vicinity of Wafu, so we will actively consider building SILW. We have not released the final results of the review of the railway development strategy. We'll do so later on in the year, and we will then give a detailed account of the views collected in the last 2 rounds of consultation, including cross-area railway network and also extension of lines and also addition of stations, etc. We'll let you know the consultants' views and also our final decision. On SILW, since we have yet to release the report of the RDS review, we therefore say that at this stage we'll actively consider it. In fact, that is already a very aggressive attitude. Later on, when we redevelop Hua Fu and develop a new PRH project in the vicinity, we are talking about increasing the number of units by over 10,000. Indeed, there will be the generation of new traffic demand. So we need to complement it with railway and public transport. As for Siu Sai Wan and the demand for railway service from other areas, let us wait for the report from the RDS review. Commissioner for Transport. The charging of fares by cross-harbour routes after crossing the harbour, and for non-cross-harbour buses covering the same distance, it is said that there is a difference between the fare levels. This is actually premised on making the most rational use of bus services. Cross-harbour routes cover longer distances. We hope they would not take a long turnaround time because we want them to be punctual. After crossing the harbour, we'll hope that if the public can make use of non-cross-harbour routes, then cross-harbour routes will not have to stop often for boarding and alighting, because that will add to journey time. If the journey time cannot be kept under control, the bus service will become uncertain. This is our consideration. Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Thank you, Chairman. A few questions. First, bus route rationalization. In Tuen Mun North, we have this, but there is a contradiction in that some original service will be affected by the rationalization process. Do you have a policy whereby routes abandoned by the franchised bus companies would be open to GMBs for tendering? Buses have a big capacity, but GMBs only have a capacity of 16, and they may be feasible. Would you consider this as a policy so as to make up for one big deficiency within bus route rationalization? And of course, GMBs also take up a lot of road space, and there is a big difficulty in hiring GMB drivers. You have increased the capacity of PLB or GMBs from 9 to 14 to 16. I'd like you to have a timetable to review the capacity of public light buses. Can we further expand the capacity? Then there will be a reduction of small buses on our roads. Number 3. There is a discussion paper on the territory-wide transport need review, but the STH is asking us to wait. But I think you should not drag on. Even if you have a report coming in at the end of the year, you need time for discussion and make a final decision. So maybe it's only after 2015 will you put anything in place. I, in fact, like you to do an intermodal review, but you should start to do it right away. Lastly, I'd like to talk about bicycle policy. The PA mentions some bicycle-friendly cities, but I still think that this remains a concept only for you. You only limit it to cycle tracks and the new towns. But Hong Kong is an integral whole. When you talk about bicycle-friendly policies, you must also look at the right of cyclists to use our roads and how people can cycle safely. I have said that where appropriate in the urban area, you can designate some margins on the roads so you can provide a cycle track. And when cyclists are crowded out by vehicles, they should be able to have some refuge. And I'm talking about making use of some margin space for cyclists to get shelter from vehicles from stretch to stretch, so we can also reduce the exhaust emission on our roads. If that is possible, then I'm sure more people will use bicycles. STH, Mr. Wu raised 4 points. Number one, whether we can open up certain services to other modes of transport, including PLB, and also adding to the seating capacity of PLBs after bus route rationalization. I will leave that to the Commissioner because we have discussed with the industry. As for intermodal coordination and bicycles, in the paper we have mentioned that with the promotion and building of infrastructure, including railways as well as new railways, and later on there will be a report on the RDS for railway development post-2020. If we have the big picture ready, then we'll be able to review the intermodal positioning so we can make the best use of road surface space. I said that we might need to wait for the review report of the RDS, but then we are not sitting with our arms folded at the moment. In fact, our colleagues are getting ready for that plan. As for long-term planning for public transport, this is not a replication of the territory-wide transport needs. That was of a very big scale. As for bicycle policy, indeed, we will take a comprehensive look, including what the member suggested, the positioning of bicycle as a mode of transport, and also other than busy roads in the urban areas, can bicycle also be indeed a mode of transport instead of just for leisure purposes? There will be a more definite view reached on the issue, and we'll come back to you. As for public light buses, maybe we can answer that later on because members have exceeded the time already. Members, when you ask questions, if you have a multiple kind of question, please do not speak too much on them because there will not be time for officials to answer you. Mr. Frankie Yik, I have the same point as Mr. Wu Chi-wai, and that is the fourth territory-wide transport study. You answered us, but I think there is too much delay. I think the public light buses have a big operational difficulty now, and we have tabled certain letters, and I'm sure you are aware of those. So first of all, I hope it will be advanced as much as possible. As Mr. Wu said, please do not wait till 2015. Before we have that, can you focus on one point? The railways are expanding, and they are also providing feeder services, but could you allow PLBs to operate the feeder services? And also, when you do bus route rationalization, can you free up certain routes for PLBs? And the industry has said that you can shorten the restricted zone hours so the PLBs have more room for operation. I have looked at some proposals from the districts in that you could, in a way, make changes to certain GMB or PLB routes, but I think the Commissioner is quite unwilling. If the STH is willing, I can certainly follow up that with you. As for the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge, it is now doing on-site construction. The industry has always asked the administration to listen to their aspirations. You said that you would have to iron out issues with the central authorities before you talk to the industry. I think the order of doing things is not right. You should listen to the aspirations of the industry first to see what they want and what they do not want, instead of you draw up the plan and then you just notify the industry and then things cannot be changed easily then.
On the territory-wide transport study, yes, we are proceeding to the 4th study, and this is going to take up a lot of time, and we focus on the transport problems, PLBs, and so on that members mentioned. Now, for the PLBs, I'll defer to the Commissioner later on. Now, for the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge, we have a committee involving the 3 administrations, and there's a special group looking at the bridge arrangement for border crossing arrangements and so on. And again, I will defer to Miss Ivy Law in a while and giving you the updates. Yes, of course, we need to discuss with the trade, but we also need to have other areas of discussion. Ms. Law, maybe we hear from you first. Now, as Professor Cheung said, we have a coordination group from the 3 parties looking at the general direction of the bridge operation. Now, the 3 governments or administrations are looking at the various planning and interchanging of ideas and views, and we are yet to come to a conclusion. But we promise that if we have a clear direction, we will liaise with the trade ASAP. Yes, Ms. Law, I still feel that you should first hear from the trade how they can help the border passengers before you have the 3-party discussion. But you are now doing it in the reverse order, putting the cart before the horse, as it were. Of course, we are not asking you to be able to achieve everything, but at least you should know what the trade wants first before discussing it in the 3-party committee. Well, maybe you can do the 2 tasks concurrently. Yes, I think the 2 should be done concurrently. In fact, we have gathered the views of the trade to a certain extent. Yes, of course you have to discuss with them, but you need to have an overall idea first. Now, we want to see how much the other parties can provide or accept. But I agree that this is an interactive process. Okay, maybe before the next meeting, you can call a meeting and hear from the trade. Okay, we'll go back to see how we can best proceed. Now, to have a railway as a major frame or skeleton of our transport network, I think many people will agree. Now, if you have 40% being done by railway and 30% by buses, then there might be a risk of a single railway corporation monopolizing the market, as it were. And now, how can buses help? Now, the bus terminals are operating in the same fashion over the years. Now, in Seoul Estate, I was there when I was a student, but today it's still more or less the same. And okay, people may have views on the routing, but then we want the public to have more choices so that the railway will not be monopolizing. Otherwise, when it comes to fare increases, well, there will be a lot of arguments. And then also the operational income and the other income are fused together and leading to a lot of dissatisfaction. Now, the policy address also wants to promote electric vehicles. I think that's a good thing. But many of my friends have such electric vehicles, but then the parking space or car park has no charging facilities for charging the battery. Now, so you need to have ancillary measures, and there must be accompanying or complementary facilities to help these electric vehicle users. Now, Professor, I'm sure you know that there has been an increase in the number of vehicles leading to congestions on the roads. And in Hong Kong Island, in particular, now the road surfaces are damaged, and I hope that you will keep an eye on the situation. There may be bursting of pipes beneath the road, and maybe even traffic accidents. Now, I'm happy to hear that parking spaces will be reviewed. Now, I think you should pay attention to tourist coaches' parking spaces. Now, there are many tourist spots, and the coaches have to stop at very inconvenient places, sometimes giving rise to danger. Now, to use the railway as the skeleton, I think that's because it carries a lot of passengers, it's relatively kind to the environment, and that's also when we did our third transport study, that was the conclusion we came to. Now, but that is not the same as to say that they will be monopolizing the situation. Now, public transport passenger amount, okay, they have, let's say, 40+%, the railway. Buses take up 30% plus. So buses are very important. And of course, if the two routes overlap, that's a different thing. But sometimes, but very often, they complement one another as far as the routing goes. And we want to ensure that people are given choices. Now, on electric vehicles, now the policy address says that this is a pilot scheme. We fully understand your concern. Now, in other cities, there must be enough charging places, and to allow the vehicles to run for a longer period of time, and that they should be able to go uphill. So there's still a lot of R&D going on, and we are not trying to implement it full scale, not just yet. Now, on the growth of private vehicles or parking spaces for tourist coaches, and these will certainly be included in our future studies. What about the road surface damages? I hope the Highways Department can focus on the busy roads. And yes, this is something that the highways will follow. Mr. Albert Chan. On overall transport, there are procedures we have to follow. Now, in the past, I took part after the 1980s. Now, first of all, you have the territory-wide development, and then the overall transport study, and then the railway study, so step by step. But recently, there's been some sort of confusion. And you have, say, East Kowloon, because of some people's interest, there should be some monorail. So that's one suggestion, but it's totally unfounded. and it does not fit into the overall planning program. Now, for the railway study, which I also helped to initiate, especially for NT West. Now, I have been saying this for many years. Now, in the urban places, you have a lot of road developments mentioned in the policy address. Is it because they have relatives living in the south of the island, so they have a relatively few people living there, and yet they have one railway station? But then in the NT West, there are so many people there, but there are only 2 railway stations. Now, and this is not addressed in the policy address, and in your overall planning, you don't have a proper order or procedure. So I have to point out that I am worried about the overall transport development. Now, and in expressing my views today, I hope you will focus more on the NT West. Don't tell me that there is a light rail there. The light rail is not really doing a good job. But what about East Kowloon? If they need a special monorail, then and there are so many railway stations there. So there's a lack of balance. Now, on the buses and the feeder routes, now, since 20 years ago, from the Shingmun Tunnel bus interchange, now 20 years have come and gone. Now, the interchange arrangement is really getting very ludicrous. And for airport buses, you have to pay the full fare, new fares, and very expensive. So the interchange program stopped, and then you have a new one coming up that's from Tuen Mun for the interchange. But for many spots in Hong Kong, there are no interchange services. And if there is one, the concession is not there. And the relative or the bus companies are taking opportunity to charge expensive fees. I don't know whether you are familiar with these items. Now, Mr. Chan's point about planning needing to have orders and procedures. In fact, that's exactly what we have been doing. In 1999, when we did the 3rd transport study, the directions are what we are doing at the moment to use the railway to become the overall skeleton of the public transport and to improve its services because it is more environmentally friendly. Now, today in our policy address, we say that in our policy address, again, we are using the railway as a major skeleton. But for planning, in 1999, before you have the Hong Shui-kiu or Tong Chung Phase 2, before you had these, now, why do you have the overall transport arrangement and then the next step? Because these are all related. Now, Chair, when we did the railway development strategy, we considered the new towns and the new development areas, and as I said, we are looking at long-term planning as well, and this follows a general direction. Now, for the lack of balance between districts and possible improvements, now in LegCo, Mr. Law mentioned his point, and this is something we will certainly look into. And bus interchange, do I have time to respond? Yes, please be brief. Now, in the various districts, on the rationalization of bus routes, we are looking at how to make best use of the bus interchange services. Now, I understand that some district residents would like to see concessions being given, and this is something we'll discuss with the bus companies. Chair, in the policy address, it mentions railway development, and a lot of coverage has been brought up, and the Wafu estate has been included. Now, in the present address, what about the Northern Link? I am disappointed that nothing is mentioned. Now, because if you look at the development of the northeastern area with a population of 180,000, together with a Hong Kwok-hing development, you are looking at a very sizable population, and an ordinary bus route will not be enough. Now, in the present exercise, if we are spending so much coverage on housing, and in the east and west of the new territories, the Northern Link is being ignored, as it were, I'm very disappointed. Now, you mentioned, Professor Cheung, that in the north of Fanling, there will be 70,000 plus people. If people are going to live there, then they need transport to go to school and go to work.
That is going to be a very large community, but yet you have not planned any railway stations to serve that community. This is really alarming. According to your previous planning strategies, if there are 50,000 to 60,000 people, you provide a railway station. You are proposing one for Kutong North, so why not one for Fanling North? So first, why Northern Link has not been mentioned in the PA, and also why there is not a railway station in an NDA with 70,000 people. That's the first question. Secondly, electric cars. I'm also very disappointed. Remember, the last term government put in a lot of efforts in terms of resources, including manpower, to promote the use of electric cars. The government is also using many electric cars, but I believe 70% of all electric cars in Hong Kong are used by the Hong Kong SARG. Other people are not exactly using it. Very few members of the public are using it, and I dare say that the charging station downstairs has a zero utilization rate. There are 5 such stations in our car park here down the building. In the PA, it says 2 things about electric cars. 1, the government will continue to purchase them, and 2, there will be more use of electric cars in public works projects. You are making use of $11.5 billion to phase out diesel vehicles. So why can't you also plow in resources to purchase more electric cars so as to reduce exhaust emission? There are 80,000 diesel vehicles on our roads. They are very polluting. So why don't you do something about electric cars to promote them, like providing concessions, etc.? STH, on the issue of Northern Link, as I answered Mr. Wong Kwok-hing, I already said that in the PA, we have not announced all the views gathered in the RDS review exercise. After collating the consultancy's conclusions, then we will announce the different initiatives together. Therefore, this is not the time today for us to speak on that in detail. Allow me to say, however, that under the RDS, we will consider cross-district railway corridors or extensions and the addition of and provision of stations, etc. When we consider these, we have 3 premises. 1, to respond to the transport needs of residents. 2, to be cost-effective. And 3, we should complement the development needs of NDAs. If we can comply with these conditions, then there will be concrete plans. Therefore, today, I cannot say too much on the Northern Link. As for electric cars, when I responded to Mr. Tony Chair, I already said that indeed, the SARG would like to promote the use of electric cars because they are more environmentally friendly. Objectively, however, the average motorist or car buyer will consider the price, the performance. Some electric cars may have difficulty negotiating slopes because they are still being developed. And for buses, as you know, in the whole wide world, we do not have double-decker electric buses. And also the charging facilities. you have to have the entire package of facilities. We can provide more charging stations, but in terms of price and other matters, this is not within our control. But we'll certainly continue to promote them. Just one word, Chairman. Since the Northern Link is the concern of many members, Mr. Chen Han Pan and myself have drafted a motion. I hope it will be processed. Yes, okay, it will indeed. Ms. Elizabeth Quat. Thank you, Chairman. You mentioned the promotion of a bicycle-friendly environment. You say you would like to have a continuous cycle track network in the new territories to improve people's quality of life. Many people in the NT have said to us that they would very much like to make use of the bicycle as short-distance feeder. Hopefully, the bicycle can become a segment of our transport network, instead of what we have now, that cycle tracks are really provided mainly for leisure and entertainment. The design of the bicycle tracks is deficient in a few ways. They are not continuous. Very often people have to alight from their bicycles, push the bicycles around, and also there will be the fighting for space between bicycles and pedestrians. Sometimes cycle tracks cross jogging trails, and some cycle tracks are very narrow. And then there are more and more people using bikes, and there is insufficient parking space. Whether you live in PRH or a private building, you do not have a bike parking space. And when you want to make use of the railway, then you again cannot park your bike at a railway station. And therefore, there is this problem of abandoned bikes, which is a big environment problem. Earlier on, the Sha Tin District Council asked the CU Hong Kong to do a study to see how a bike riding environment can be improved. Some people have said that there should be introduction of an automated bicycle hiring system. We propose that a pilot can be conducted in Sha Tin. In other words, people can use this automatic bike hire system in Hangzhou, in Paris, London, and Berlin. People have done this very successfully. They have a very comprehensive bike transport system. There are traffic lights just for bikes. There is this bike hire system, so people can use their bike safely on the roads. My question for you is, since you have not said too much about this bicycle-friendly environment in your speech, I'd like to know how the administration approaches this concept of promoting the bike as a part of our transport system and promoting an automated hire system for bikes. STH. Chairman, when we look further into promoting a bicycle-friendly environment, we'll certainly look into the points made by Ms. Quat. The bike is no longer just for leisure and entertainment, but of course people still ride a bike in the new territories. However, in the NDAs, in the new towns, they do have a feeder function. However, in busy areas, we will have to be careful about making use of the bike as a transport mode in busy areas for the sake of safety. In other cities, people may have a different scenario from ours. When I go to the mainland or overseas now, I have got into this habit of looking into the system for bicycles. I have looked at Tokyo, Taipei, and Shanghai. In Tokyo, they are making huge efforts in promoting the use of bikes, but they face the same problems. Safety, there are more bicycle-related accidents, and also people who ride on bikes may be more exposed to vehicle exhaust. And the third one is parking. We have the same problems really as Tokyo. In fact, we may face even more constraints because of limited space. But when we promote the policy, we'll certainly look into all these points. I'd like to ask about the time frame. When will the study be completed? When can we see a clearer blueprint for bicycle use in Hong Kong in the future? STH, we have just started exploring into the issue. I was saying that we would learn from the experience of other cities. We hope that within the year, we can form some initial views on the issue. Mr. Chen Han-pan. Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Gary Chan made a very valid point, and that is the Northern Link. It is mentioned in the PA that there will be a large development in Kam Tin. Now in Port Shelter and Kwok-wai, many housing projects are taking place. In the future, a big population will flood in and they need a transport network using railways. We hope the Northern Link will be implemented ASAP. However, we cannot see any mention of the Northern Link in the PA, and I register my disappointment. So we have drafted a motion asking the administration to implementing the Northern Link ASAP. I would have the administration answer this as well. Do you have any plans? Do you have any ideas when it will be rolled out? Secondly, in a paper table today, you say you'd like to improve pedestrian networks, especially the problem of narrow pedestrian pavements. You mentioned Yuen Long as an example. In the past few years, the population in Yuen Long has jumped. If you walk from the east to west on the main road, it would take you just 15 minutes in the past, but now it takes you 30 minutes, and sometimes you are crowded out onto the carriageway in busy hours. You talk about this as a small-scale project, and you say parts of the pavement can be widened, but then it remains narrow in many stretches. In the middle, you have the light rail taking up about 3 traffic lanes. I have said that the light rail should be submerged underground. We should have an underground system in Yuen Long so we can have wider pavements on the road surface. Will you consider those? Do you have a plan to consider these? STH. Chairman, as I said, when I responded to Mr. Gary Chan, on this occasion today, it is not for me to divulge all the contents of the RDS review, and I'm saying this about the Northern Link. I hope in the not too long distant future, I can announce the conclusions of the RDS review and also the directions for future development. Apart from options put forward by the consultation paper, views have been expressed by the different districts, and we will consider them as well. But I can tell members that, as I said, when we consider any large-scale railway development, at the same time we must look at the transport needs generated. We have to respond to those, and secondly, it has to be cost-effective. So, I mean feasibility, and also we have to complement the development in NDAs. If all these conditions are met, we'll certainly respond actively, including options like the Northern Link. But later on, I will give you a full account. As for the pedestrian environment improvement project, especially in Yuen Long, the Director of Highways can respond to you later on. To submerge the LRT underground, this has to do with an overall review of the LRT. Later on in the study on long-term development for public transport, we will certainly look at this. Director for Highways, thank you. In September 2010, we have started improving pedestrian improvement consideration and investigation in Yuen Long. We have also consulted the public. After talking to the district council, we decided that there will be improvement measures of different scales, including building footbridges, improving the Yuen Long section of Castle Peak Road, and other projects. We have started the small-scale minor works projects, and as for the larger ones, we are doing feasibility studies and initial studies. There are 3 projects which have received support, including to landscape pavement on Fengyao Tech Street, and also to improve the environment around Yuen Long Town Center, and also to improve the junction of Fuk Tin Street, and lastly, to build a pedestrian access along the Yuen Long Nala. We will talk to the District Council again in due course.
5 more members want to ask questions, beginning with Ms. Chen Yun Han. So there are 5 members in all. Ms. Chen, you first. I wanted to ask on 3 paragraphs, but because I won't have enough time, I'll focus on the elevated railway. Now, I don't object to doing a consultation. Now, in fact, the tram companies have done some reviews. Now, if it's going to be elevated, it's pretty expensive, probably more than 10 billion. And if it's for trams, it's a lot cheaper, about only 1/5 of the price. Now, but you mustn't forget that the columns will take up space at the ground level. And if you ask about the district councils, we have been asked to have a look at it, members of the FTU district councils. Now, in fact, which method is best for Kowloon East? Now, if these cars were to go out to Kwun Tong, carriages to To Kwa Wan and so on, assuming that it also gets there, it's still a problem. So I like to ask about this. Now, secondly, on the bicycle-friendly issue. Now, it sounds very good, okay, bicycle-friendly, but compared to other cities, now, as you said, Professor Zhang, you've been to other places, Beijing, Tokyo, or Germany. They are not just developing the bicycles for the environment. Okay, if you have a bicycle holiday, that's very good, and you can have a Kowloon Bay bicycle network. But when you get to some interchange issues, if you can solve the parking problem, safety problem, I think we should do more. Now, a few years ago, we asked the government, but nobody was able to answer my question. Now, if you have this bicycle-friendly environment, you have to consider not just the environment. In fact, 3 years ago, I worked with some CUHK professors and walked from Chai Wan to Central, and there are a lot of developments along the Victoria Harbour. And it's a long, narrow strip. Okay, you have the Island Eastern Corridor, but there's still a lot of congestion. If you have an alternate kind of bicycle path, can this be done? Now, maybe you should look at this not only from the friendly angle, now, but from Chai Wan to, let's say, to Wan Chai, Central, and then Sheung Wan. Can you not do one path, a bicycle track there? Now, I was talking to the professor the other day, and then you have parking space near Admiralty, and then you can walk to the busy offices. So that's done in Beijing for you to park and then walk. That's how it's done. You know, you park and then you walk to the central business districts. But the present suggestion does not really meet the target. Okay, this can be a very wise, clever proposal, but you have to do more. Now, on the pedestrian facilities, you may not have time to answer my question. If you ask about our friends who want to pay attention to congestion, in fact, there's pretty serious issue in Hong Kong. Now, I don't know whether you can answer these questions of mine. Well, maybe you focus your answer on my first two questions. Now, if you develop on the transport development, I have some documents on Kwun Tong, the Anderson area, from Sai Kung to Choi Wan and then to the interchange. Now, it's going to be 45 minutes from Choi Wan. It's congested all the way from Anderson to that particular interchange. So how do you handle this major congestion? And the officials were not able to answer my question, and I was really furious. And together with Wu Chi-ming, I came up here and then mentioned this example to your colleagues. Now, in your planning for Kowloon East, you have 300 plus hectares for development. Why not relieve and resolve the congestion issue? You only propose flyovers, but the flyovers really create a kind of an eyesore for the whole city. You've exhausted your time, really. Now, on railway development, now I don't think you need to be too low-key on this. It's something we have to go ahead with. If you want to solve Pok Fu Lam and Wah Fu Estate or the South Island line, all these have to go ahead. Well, you should tell us in very bold manner so that we don't have to ask you questions and worry that you will not proceed with these areas. Well, tell us all your plans on mass transit arrangements and to use railway as the skeleton supported by buses and so on. Now, while you're developing the railroads, now if you look at the NT Northeast as well as the northern part of the new territories with new town developments, now all these are going to go ahead. But many of these roads are dead-end roads, and you cannot really develop any further. Now, in Tai Po, you have some expansion work almost completed. The same is happening in Fan Ling. But if you go further south to the race course, now, every day during the rush hours, even if you go via Tate Ken's Tunnel, there's a lot of congestion. Now, I don't see anything in your plan what solutions you have. Now, not just for NT North and East with its increasing population, but just for Fanling and Sheungshui, population is increasing. Vehicles are increasing in number. And together with the NT East new towns, you have a lot of pressure, a lot of need for transport. Now we are concerned about being green. Now biodiesel has been mentioned for a long time, and maybe this is something for Hong Kong. And those in the trade are very willing to invest in this area to promote production of biodiesel fuel. But without a policy support, they won't achieve anything. Now, apart from electric vehicles, I think biodiesel is a very important topic for us to pay attention to. Now, in other parts of the world, there are regulations stipulating the percentage of such use. On Northern Link, Chair, I'm not going to repeat what I said earlier. Now, from members' angle, you see a lot of needs for these areas. Now, if we proceed along this fashion, then there are other areas also presenting me with needs. Now, the consultant companies would have to give us the definitive report, and I want to expedite issues and be able to give you a report sometime this year. Now, using the railways as our skeleton does not solve all the problems. And in some areas, you cannot have railroad alignment because of the topography. Now, expanding the carriageway again is not something you can do everywhere. So it's not just that if there's a need, we can just expand, widen the roads. No, it's as simple as that. Now, for growth in vehicle numbers, this is something we have to keep an eye on. And in our long-term study, we will certainly include that. Now, for green transport, that's also the goal of our Bureau. Now, for electric cars, we are facing challenges, as I mentioned earlier. Now, other types of fuel, the biodiesel, as you mentioned. Now, in promoting a green transport, we are liaising very closely with the environmental department. And that's something we focus on. Now, to respond to Ms. Chan's question, if I may, in fact, I have other questions. Maybe Ms. Chan can ask in her second round. Now, okay. Now, this is imminent, not really long term. Now, on carriageway from race course to Tai Wai, that area, how are you going to solve the problem? I'll defer to the Highways Department then. Director of Highways, Mr. Lau. Now, along the Tolo Harbour, including Phase 1 and Phase 2 of our improvement works. Now, Phase 1 is almost completed. For Phase 2, we've just started. That's for the Fanling Highway. And for the Tolo Harbour roads network, we are fully aware of the situation. Now, that's another bottleneck for Fanling and Tai Po, so you should pay attention to that. Now, I think that this question raised is not limited to the two areas that he mentioned, but there are other similar places where, because of a result of new development, there are bottlenecks. So I hope the Highways Department can keep an eye on this. Ronnie Tong, now on the bicycle issue, you remember that in the last term of the government, there was a plan to improve the bicycle tracks, and the plan was to start from Sai Kung to link all the bicycle routes all the way to Tuen Mun, so encircling the whole of the new territories. And there were details given out, including various stops here and there. And the Transport Department, I think, made an arrangement for me and other electrical colleagues to pay site visits. And the arrangement then was that Hong Kong people and tourists can take one bicycle from one stop and then just pedal their way to another stop to do sightseeing or to just replace walking. Now, this has been discussed for more than a year, and then suddenly everything turned quiet. As Mr. Tong Chi-hua said, this is just talking, and then nothing happened, nothing materialized. Now, we should be continuous and to have a follow-through and a follow-up. Now, as a bureau, you have the responsibility to rationalize the whole issue. Now, what did the last term's administration have in terms of plan on the bicycles? But now today, you're coming here and tell us about a bicycle friendly. What you're saying right now is very vague. It's very unsubstantial. You're only telling us that further studies will be done along Tai Po. I hope you can answer my question today. If not, give us a written reply later on. Now, going back to the last term's administration, the linking up of the bicycle routes. Now, has that plan been nipped in the bud? And what are the reasons? Now, your present proposal, how is it related to the previous administration's proposals? Is there any connection at all? Now, Chair, now this is not focusing on bicycles today, but this is part of the policy address, and we should know the background and history of the issue. Now, since I took office, I remember answering the question at least 2 times in the electrical Q&A sessions on bus routes from NT East to NT West. Looks like that we need a more detailed paper on the progress. Now, the bicycle track issues initiated by the civil engineering department. Now, we mentioned the environment of the bicycles, but we are talking about the policy of being more friendly to the bicyclists, because as Secretary for Transport and Housing, I feel the need and the responsibility to enhance the use of bicycles, and I should really be taking the initiative.
In Hong Kong, in the process of drawing up a comprehensive bicycle-friendly policy, we should learn from the recent experience of certain cities. Some cities are also busy. How did they solve their problems? As Ms. Kwok was saying, there are considerations about safety, parking, abandoned vehicles, etc. Awareness of using and hiring bicycles, etc. To respond to Mr. Ronnie Tong, perhaps in due course we can say that again. No, STH, you must answer briefly from Sha Tin to Tsuen Wan. There was a plan made. Does it exist anymore? Yes, it does. Oh no, this is from Sai Kung Chairman. The plan is still there? STH says the plan is still there, but it is being executed in phases. But many years have passed. What's the progress like? I hope, Mr. STH, you should let us have a comprehensive bicycle use policy for us to discuss. Can you do that? STH. In fact, I reported on progress in previous meetings, and the plan is executed in phases, but it is not done by the departments of our bureau, but rather the CEDD. However, transport policy, of course, is my jurisdiction. In other words, the plan is being executed. It's still there. It is just that it has not been completed. Let us have progress next time. Okay, we'll find a chance to put this on the agenda so that relevant departments can come and let us know the progress. Mr. Jeffrey Lam. Thank you, Chairman. In this PA, there is this flash point, and that is we should have a East Lantau metropolis and to develop bridgehead economy. As you know, that place is served by different transport modes. We'll have the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge, but there will also be the Tuen Mun to Chatlap Kok link. It will be built. Later on, when this is built, you will have to take care of transport and parking issues. If the bridgehead economy will develop well, we have to be careful how that will impact on travelers coming into Hong Kong from Chatlap Kok. And I'm including business people coming to Hong Kong. And I ask you now, do you have a comprehensive plan to take care of the transport in that area? For example, will you increase train frequency? Do we need another road? What about marine connectivity? And also in the PA, the CE has listed the future housing targets. That is about 20,000 PRH units, 8,000 HOS units every year. That will take care of the target in the next 10 years, and that is 28,000 or 282,000. This will be dispersed around Hong Kong, but that would mean that there will be more traffic pressure in those areas with new housing. So how can you balance other modes of transport with the MTR, because you are saying that the direction is to use mass carriers, so that in the end, even if there is congestion, it should still be with acceptable limits. You are providing more housing units and people may have to take a few more minutes to go to and from work. I think that will be all right. However, if the delay is excessive, residents will not find that acceptable. STH Chairman, the future development of Lantau is indeed a major project. It will be complemented by Tung Chung and Lantau West development following the commissioning of the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge. The situation will be quite different in future. The administration has kicked off some initial planning, and in that process will certainly include a transport element. If there will be business, commercial and housing developments in that area, we will certainly include transport in the comprehensive planning process. The CE said in the PA that there will be a Lantau Development Advisory Committee to be set up, and the TH Bureau will be represented on that committee. As you know, I also wear the hat of the Chief for Housing. Indeed, in the next 10 years, there will be much more production. We have heard from different districts and especially views on the LTHS. We know that districts have told us to be mindful about traffic and transport when we develop housing. Therefore, in terms of public transport, including railroads, we will certainly keep in mind that we need to complement housing development with transport. The East Lantau Plan, Chairman, you need to study into the transport side with a lot of care because it's right next to the international airport. The airport is a very important element of our being a business center. Now, if the development will be good, I think as much as 100,000 people will go there every day. Then if the travelers coming in from the airport will be disturbed or inconvenienced, there will be an impact on our economy as well. I hope you will really exercise a lot of care in putting in place transport facilities so that you would not affect the operation of the airport, and also even if you are going to develop the bridgehead economy. Chairman, I agree totally. The airport is so important for all sides of the development of our economy. Mr. Christopher Chung, one SIL, you are going to redevelop Hua Fu. I'm sure you need to extend SIL to Hua Fu. How are you going to position the stations? And what about Aberdeen? Aberdeen is linked with Shap Hai Wan Estate and also Aberdeen Centre. Given the density in Aberdeen, what are you going to do about a station there? And also, will you consider Tuen Mun? Tuen Mun is also a very much populated area. What are you going to do for the residents of Tuen Mun? After redevelopment of Hua Fu, there will be a sharp increase in population. Even if you extend the line to Hua Fu, well, yes, we're going to support it, but that still will not be enough. Have you considered linking up Hua Fu with the western extension? Many people will go to Central and Sheung to work, and they need this alternative line. There has been a recent spate of breakdown on our railroads. Even if that happens, I hope the Hong Kong South area will not be totally affected. What about an extension to Siu Sai Wan. Can you respond to that? There is nothing on this in the PA. And the traffic distribution amongst the 3 cross-harbor tunnels. During the evening peak hours, even the eastern crossing is congested. The queue of traffic backs up to North Point. Are you thinking about revamping the tolls, but then Eastern Harbor Crossing may not be able to take up the extra traffic because of the poor design? Any congestion at Eastern Crossing can back up to Wan Chai. After the Central Wan Chai bypass is commissioned, or even before that, you will have to conduct simulated tests on your computer. Even if you have the Central Wan Chai bypass, it will not be very functional because the Eastern Cross Harbor Tunnel traffic can back up to Wan Chai. The congestion now is only with one crossing, but later on, even the bypass will be affected. And we have approved additional funding for you last week. Are you going to extend the noise barrier to Wharfu? With regard to the SIL West, as I said, please pardon me for not being able to divulge too much information today. But later on, I will be able to look at the entire development. Of course, we will include the redevelopment of Wharfu, but we will not just look at Wharfu. I know that different views have been expressed. That is whether we should develop SIL West in one go or in 2 steps. We will include that in the DS review report. The same will also apply to the Siu Sai Wan extension. As for traffic distribution amongst the 3 cross-harbor tunnels, we consulted this panel and we listened to your views. We also conducted public consultation, and we also talked to the stakeholders in the different industries. We also went to the DCs to listen to views. Indeed, some DCs expressed the same views and concerns of Mr. Christopher Chong, and that is how we are going to impact on the Eastern District and Kwun Tong if we go for traffic distribution. The TD staff have done other assessments, and after considering all factors, we will do the analysis and make a judgment and come back to you. As for the Central Wan Chai bypass, we are proceeding according to the original plan. We asked for supplementary provision from the LegCo because of a hike in costs. Mr. Lee Cheuk-yen. Thank you, Chairman. Number 1, I'd like to talk about figures. Is it that we are going to increase the toll for Cross Harbor Tunnel and reduce it for the Eastern Harbor Crossing, or what are we going to do about the Western Crossing? When are you going to do something about all this? It seems we are waiting on end for this. And secondly, there is no particular mention of traffic fares. You may say everything is set. There is the fare adjustment mechanism, and it is in place. If it has to be reviewed, it will be reviewed. But as you know, the MTR has gone into this spate of accidents and incidents. You have imposed a fine. Of course, it should be returned to the public by way of fare concession. I think you should not just provide rebates, but directly through fare reduction. Because if you provide any rebate or concession, only some travelers will benefit. Buses have applied for a hike in fares, and members of the public now have to get ready for higher transport fares. Number 3, Yuen Long, pedestrian facility. I don't know whether the Director of Highways has been to Yuen Long. It is so congested If you walk on Yuen Long Main Road, you have to line up in order to take a step. You can't even move at Hung Cake Shop. You talk about short, medium term, and even the short-term measures are not going to be of immediate help. And the medium-term measures are too far away. I think what we want to know is when we can have a more smooth traffic along Yuen Long Road.
Now, the pilot scheme, I will defer to the department head. Now, for the distribution for the 3 cross-harbor tunnels, now we are going to increase fares for the Hong Ham cross-harbor tunnel, and then reduce the fare for the eastern cross-harbor tunnel, because the traffic extending back the queue is going to affect the other traffic in other areas, and that's why we have this complementary kind of arrangement for the fare increase and decrease. And as Mr. Chung said, now we are collating views, and if this is to be implemented, we're going to look at the impact on the various districts. We have heard from different users and what the impact is going to be on Kowloon East, for example, in Kwun Tong. We're listening to the stakeholders. Now, you or the members have said on past occasions, what about the Western Cross-Harbor Tunnel? Now, we're going to wait until 2017 when the link for Central and Wan Chai to be completed. So all these will be considered together, and we can show you that we will come back to you later in the year to let you know the latest update. Now on the fares, now when buses want to increase fares, we have mechanism to consider that, how they have been operating, affordability of the public, and the actual cost. We consider a whole basket of things. Now for the MTRC, we have a fare adjustment mechanism, and this is a transparent process, and there are certain indices we have to follow. For example, the price index, the median income level, and there's a cap on the amount of increase. Now on penalties, now we do not want to use penalties or fines to increase our income. In fact, we do not want to see any penalties at all. In fact, we are using it to reimburse the public. For example, the second trip 10% discount. Now on the Yuen Long area, please. Now the main road along Yuen Long. Now we are doing road works, but there are a lot of restrictions because it's an old road with old buildings on both sides. But there are still things we can do. Now along the Yuen Long area of Castle Peak Road, we can do some improvement works to simplify the traffic arrangements so that vehicles can go more smoothly and people can cross the road more quickly. For the medium term, we are doing detailed planning, and we reckon by 2017-18 that will be completed. And there would be improvements finished in 2015. Along the Yuen Long Nulla, you will see that the Castle Peak Road pedestrian flow can be increased. Now we are doing works there, initial design, and we are keeping in touch with the Yuen Long District Council. Thank you. Mr. Poon. Now the PA touched on the railroad being the overall skeleton. Now this policy has been mentioned by the government for quite some time, and the railroads will be developed. But because of the Cheung Kwan O incident, now from an increase in population 100,000 to 400,000. That's very significant. And during peak hours, there's a lot of congestion. Now, I'd like to know about other ancillary transport measures. Now, are you going to step up and improve those facilities? Because if railway is the main thing, and should anything happen, I mean, fingers crossed, this is going to be very disastrous. Now, there should be corresponding improvement in other forms of transport. Now, in your policy area, you want to improve traffic control and transport control, and to reduce congestion on the major traffic corridors. Now, these traffic control measures, I'd like to know more. What is the progress? And when can you give us something concrete so that we can discuss? Now, in the past, you talk about electronic road pricing system. Now, in all your control measures, what is the progress? Give us an update. STH. Now, this is a regular thing that we do, looking at traffic control, looking at flow of traffic as well as congestion. I'll defer to the director later. Now, the electronic road pricing system, we have been discussing this for quite some time in society, and the administration has done preliminary studies, and when the time is ripe, we will come back and report to you. Now, the MTRC and the Tuen Mun Road line incident causing a 5-hour delay, disruption in service, causing inconvenience to passengers. Now, we have explained this on an earlier occasion on traffic and transport. Now, the crux of the matter is we cannot rely entirely on the railways. I've said this before. Even with more railroads, the patronage is about 40% only, and the other 30% relies on buses. So buses are important. Now, so to maintain all this, including taxis and PLBs, we need coordination. And now, are we at our optimum level? Now, this is something we want to look at in our long-term planning to ensure that other forms of public transport have rooms to operate. And should anything happen, whether railway or other forms, of course the railway would have the biggest impact. Now, we're going to have other measures in place, and we will come back to you on any contingency measures. So I defer to the director. Now, as Professor Cheung said, now on traffic monitoring, this is our day-to-day work. For the major trunk routes, we measure traffic speed to see if there's any serious congestion. And we also look at actual road situation to see whether we need to set up restriction zones or pedestrian-only zones, the areas of such zones, and depending on the needs of the public, whether modifications have to be made. And we have bus stops in various places, and in choosing such locations, we want to look at its impact on the nearby road situation. This is constantly under review. And then for the overall traffic flow, we want to improve it. Obviously, we rely on latest technology. On the major trunk routes, we have screens informing the motorists how much time is needed to go from A to B, so that they can choose alternative routes. And we also display speed limits, and then they will know which road will take them to the destination quicker. So giving them a smoother ride is something we do on a regular basis. Absolutely, Kwok-hing. on the 3 cross-harbor tunnels. Now for the east and west cross-harbor tunnel, they are controlled by businessmen, you know that. You hold the most important central cross-harbor tunnel, you should do something about it. Rather than letting the other businessmen reap excessive profits. Now the western tunnel, they just increase fares to solve problems. So the CE has touched on this, but he has to do something about it. Maybe the previous administration did not do anything. You should do something. Do something about the 3 cross-harbor tunnels, as well as the bridges. Now you have so many stakeholders. You are the major stakeholder, but yet we are influenced by the east and west cross-harbor tunnel. And the picture is pretty chaotic as a whole. Now we are asking, well, we are asking for more resources to be given to the northern area, and I'm not going to insist on this anymore. Even with faster flow of passenger and goods is not good enough. Now even among our society, these logistics are not properly done, leading to increases in prices and boosting or driving up inflation. So you should do something internally. Now, everything here costs money. Okay, you link the major bridges to other areas outside Hong Kong, driving up their economy, but we are not benefiting. But within Hong Kong itself, because we are controlled by the major groups and syndicates, and resulting in a lot of traffic congestion, the poorer people are influenced by inflation. This inflation is driven up by other forms of weak traffic arrangement and so on. But you only spend loads of money linking to other parts of China. I have never heard anything like this. You should solve internal Hong Kong transport problems first, so that we can lower our cost of operation. But now pedestrians and roads are not smooth at all, and this is some sort of reflection on our level of administration. Now, if you talk about the railways, the same thing happens. You expand the network, you are subsidizing a private enterprise to expand, and you are not limiting it. Now, where does this lead to? You are the major shareholder, but you have a lot of railway network and development, develop the property along the line. But you are not exercising your right of control. Even if you are the major shareholder, you're not doing it. Okay, if you rely mainly on the railways to be supplemented by buses, the buses will shrink. The bus sector will shrink. Maybe you should turn the bus companies, bus services, into a public service, since they're now doing the routes rationalization. Now, in my constituency, people are complaining. They have to go a long way and wait for buses in order to go to work. So you should well, incorporate this into the government property, and you should make investment. Otherwise, there's no way out. Now, so what is your view, STH? STH? Now, I think, well, turning this into a public asset is something very major. I cannot answer this in such a short space of time. Now, to improve internal traffic and transport, that is obviously our important goal. We emphasize internal mobility. Now, on the one hand, you look at demand control as well as supply. So that's railway, roads, buses, and other forms of transport. So it is something we cannot bypass. We have to look at the future of buses and so on. There is absolutely no question about buses not having a place. In fact, it is placing a very important role, more than 30% of the patronage. It will not shrink, not in the foreseeable future. And the railways will not be monopolizing, leading to passengers having no choice. Okay, to kind of nationalizing it is another issue altogether. Now, the distribution of the 3 cross-harbor tunnels, or buying back the Western Harbor Tunnel. Now, that is something we are aware of, but is it going to solve the problem? Now, in 2016, now the East Harbor Tunnel will be returned to the government. So we are going to have 2 out of the 3. Now, on the actual concrete exercise, whether our plans are actually feasible, now we have heard your concern, and we are going to come back to you and let you know the latest update on the 3 cross-harbor tunnels. Second round, we have several members wanting to ask questions. 3 minutes each.
Wong Kwok-hing, Wai-keung, Chen Yun Han, Elizabeth Quat, and Lo Wai-kwok, 3 minutes each. And also Leung Kwok-hong. Mr. Wong Kwok-hing. Chairman, in para 152 of the PA, with regard to the use of electric cars, the CE announced that I and my principal officials will take the lead in using these cars. STH, have you made use of electric cars? That will be of symbolic significance. And also, do other secretaries and undersecretaries also make use of electric cars? And also the Commissioner for Transport sitting behind you, does she also take a leading role in using electric cars? Because that will be symbolic. Secondly, I think the TD should follow up on what I asked just now, and that is the cross-harbor tunnels and the buses. You said that the lighting and boarding of passengers might affect the return time or turnaround time of these bus routes. I'd like to ask you, why don't you try it out on 1 or 2 routes first to verify whether your grounds stand? I hope the Commissioner will not just refuse my proposal. I think a more responsible way to do it is to try it out. You cannot just refuse me like that. I am thinking that in fact you are biased towards and being giving favors to the railways. STH, the CE has said that I and his principal officials, of course I'm a principal official, as to how many more other principal officials and high-ranking civil servants are going to use them, then it depends on how many of them will be purchased. What about the Commissioner for Transport? Is she going to use an electric car? I think what Mr. Wong is saying is that there are officials responsible for this policy area and there will be of symbolic significance. We'll certainly consider that. When will that actually be carried out? If it is in the PA, it will be followed up. I hope to know from you at an early stage, an early date for you to use the electric car, or else the media will be focusing on you and to see that you are not using an electric car. C4T, actually, amongst the cars used by my department, there is already 1 electric car. If the logistics department can make the arrangement, we are very happy to use it. As to the fares of cross-tunnel buses, I mentioned a consideration, and it was actually a conclusion reached. in our discussion with the bus companies. As to Mr. Wong's view, whether it can be tried out, I can go back to the bus companies. In fact, we are not making the environment more favorable for railways because the bus companies have supported this. I really hope the TD can try this out. Then you will be able to lobby and convince the public more. Ms. Elizabeth Quat, I like to follow up on things not mentioned and which nevertheless are very important for Hong Kong because they are territory-wide. I'm talking about the planning for parking spaces and planning for laybys. The population is aging. There are many rehab buses on our roads, but I have received complaints from every district that there is no space to park these rehab buses. And the birth rate has risen. We are going to have more children. And yet there are school buses and nanny cars which find no parking space. I have asked a question at the council about the demand in the different districts and whether there is enough parking space. But the Bureau says that there is no study done on this. So are you going to do that study? This is related to livelihood. And there will be PRH and HOS to be built. And yet, planning-wise, you have given no consideration to the parking needs of rehab buses, school buses, and nanny cars. You have not planned for any such parking spaces. You know, children and the elderly take more time boarding and alighting transport. We cannot do anything about the old estates. And yet, if you don't plan it, even for the new estates, you are just creating time bombs because there will be traffic safety issues. Number 2, the use of smartphones by drivers. The media have exposed this. I have a picture here with me that in one car there are 13 mobile phones. More taxis and even private car owners are using mobile phones on their vehicles. There has as yet no serious traffic accident, but this is a time bomb on our roads. I'd like to ask the administration whether it plans to enforce the law and regulate the situation. As of today, there is no law to prohibit the pushing of buttons on mobile sets on vehicles. Ms. Quad, your second point will be taken up in the next meeting. STH parking. Chairman, I replied to that when I responded to oral questions in the council. I have already promised that there will be an assessment of parking space, but then we have constraints because of a lack of road space. We have to ensure safety, we have to ensure smooth traffic, and also a pedestrian facility. So it's always a balancing act. As to whether there is enough parking space for a particular type of vehicle, it all depends how you delineate parking spaces, because sometimes the parking spaces can be used by different types of vehicles. So it's difficult for me to talk about dedicated parking spaces. But I understand the members' concern. This is also our concern. And in the long-term transport study, we will be looking into this. Dr. Wai Kwok, in the PA 191, that's the paragraph, the CE mentions the civil service, that we need to have a dedicated and committed civil service in order to have effective governance. STH, yours is a highly technical bureau because you have to tackle the housing problem. I am the engineering representative in LegCo. I know a lot of your staff, and I also have to listen to my constituents in the civil service. You are talking about short, medium, long-term improvements and also long-term planning. In fact, your professional grade staff have a heavy workload. They say they work under huge pressure because of a serious lack of manpower. In this legislative session, we have approved the creation of directorate posts, but the overall manpower contingent must be looked into. We have to express our serious concern. Just for transport alone, there is the railway, road traffic, and even discounting bicycles, you need the input of professional staff. So, STH, how are you making your human resources planning? STH, Chairman Dr. Low is very correct. He has put his finger on the challenge faced by different departments. The civil service morale remains high, but indeed they face a big workload and long working hours. Indeed, there is a tight supply of manpower, especially when the administration is pushing forward a lot of projects on different fronts. For me, I have housing as well as transport. So I have been to the housing department recently to talk to staff. They have told me the same problem affecting different professions. Therefore, we hope that we can deploy manpower in a better way for directorate and non-directorate grades. But we face limitations when we come here to request for funding. Members have asked us whether we have done good money for value studies and whether we have done our best. We are reviewing our work procedures, but from time to time we do need more manpower. So we will act in a pragmatic manner. We will make use of internal procedures within government, and at the same time, we will come to LegCo to ask for your support for a proper increase of manpower. Mr. Tang Ka-piu, Chairman, a few questions. In the PA, these have not been exactly mentioned. Number one, with 5 railways coming on stream, and in the middle of the year, I hope there will be good news for certain areas, including SILW and also the Tongchong line, which is very close to my heart. Now, given that kind of configuration, what about the sustainability of other modes of transport, and more importantly, the livelihood of people working in those modes of transport? The PLB has written a letter recently, and the taxis have got a higher flag fare, but then it doesn't mean they have better business. Buses, the New World First Bus and also City Bus, they are worried that there will be a reduction of 200 buses because of the building of the SIL. So their livelihood will probably be affected. They may not have their posts scrapped right away, but then there will be changes. Say, for example, you live in or you work in the Southern District and you also go back to the Southern District, but they have to live near their workplace because they are starting the first bus every day. However, this person may not exactly be fired, but he may be told to go to Siu Sai Wan to start the first bus. Therefore, bus drivers face real problems now. There are also more private cars. So will there be a territorial-wide transport study, the 4th one? Will you do it so as to delineate the intermodal positioning and also other traffic complements, including parking space? This is the first one. Number 2. Fares charged or tolls charged by bridges and tunnels. Not every bridge or tunnel charges. Say, for example, now the Wan Chai Central Bypass is not going to charge any toll. But then some bridges charge toll. They are very expensive. The Qingyi Lantau link, that's one example. And also in 2018, there will be another link. Is it going to be fair charging? I have talked to the Undersecretary many times, but he refused to answer me. Okay, your 3 minutes will be up. Let him answer you. Briefly, the fourth territorial-wide study, as I said to many members, will not be done immediately. But then after the RDS review, we will conduct a long-term plan study of Hong Kong's transport needs. Given the proposed RDS review result, we will also look at the progress of infrastructural programs, and then we'll look at the impact of all these on other modes of transport. Yes, we will have our transport network mainly supported by public modes and with railways as our backbone. We will still look at the other modes of transport and what challenges they face. But that said, the commissioning of any new railway will certainly affect public transport arrangements. And in fact, the operator and people working in that organization will certainly be affected.
Charges for bridges and tunnels. Now we have a way to determine this depending on whether we want to control the environment or the actual use. And sometimes there has to be user pays, and you cannot have a kind of across-the-board solution for these charges. Leung Kwok-hing. Now, do you have statistics? How much have been spent on our link to the mainland, and how much is spent on internal mobility improvement? Do you have such figures? Chair. In fact, well, none of our infrastructure or capital structure is done outside of Hong Kong. I guess you probably mean the high-speed railway or the Hong Kong-Zhuhai Macau Bridge. Now, in fact, for the high-speed railway, we are responsible for our section within our territory, and for the Hong Kong-Kowloon Macau, Hong Kong-Zhuhai Macau Bridge, we are responsible for 1/3, because it's a three-party thing. Now, from Wan Chai to North Point, I mean, it's not calculated, but how much have we spent on the section leading to the mainland? Now, I think you should have these figures. You can provide them after the meeting. Now, you can look at the comparative figures. Mr. Yek, I have 2 items to follow up. One, on the parking facilities. Now, you have said that you are going to examine the issue. In fact, I raised a similar question last time, and Mr. Chan's answer I do not really accept. Now, I have been to the Wai-keung area to look at how the land is used, and there are a lot of lorries and goods vehicles, and I was told that a lot of space is needed for such parking area. But let's say there are 20 hectares assigned for such use, and in fact you only need about 4.5 hectares. I don't understand why that it's a big vehicles requiring a lot of space, and you are not going to give planning about this. But we're going to use these vehicles for a long time. Now, another issue on electric vehicles. Now, there will be more charging stations to support the taxi fleet and so on. But I'm in favor of this too. And I have been told that, or learned from newspapers, that 6 have been assigned. Nobody has told me which 6 locations or parking lot will have these installed. Now, they may not be convenient locations, so you better let everyone know and have a consultation. Okay, I'll defer to my colleagues later on. Now, for parking areas, now for Kwai-keung, for example, if we can have a multi-story parking lot, now that would be good. Now, but some vehicles, they cannot use multi-story parking lots because those can be big vehicles and heavy vehicles, and the loading may not be strong enough to support them. Now, Chair. Now, I think we're talking about fast speed chargers, and these parking lots are those already installed with chargers. So 6 out of the 10 have been chosen, and the remaining 4 will be installed later on. Now they're in City Hall, Ramsey Street, Sha Kei Wan, Shang Feng Street. And these chargers are used not only by taxis but also for other electric vehicles. Now, if you are already using the ordinary chargers, then they do not have to change their habit. Quick follow-up. I hope that you will give me in writing the 6 parking lots. Now, we have received from members a motion that we urge the government to speed up implementation of the Northern Link route and to set up a station in the North Fanling new development area. I'm not going to discuss this. I'm just putting it to the vote. If you are in favor, please put your hands up. And those against, please put your hands up. There are no objections, and this motion is passed. This is non-binding, but will give the government a view of LegCo, and that in the consultation report, the government will include such a request from the LegCo. Now, we have no further questions. We have next meeting on the 21st of February 2014. So thank you for attending. Meeting adjourned.